Welcome to the third episode. I'm gonna keep count of
Three.
Vital Questions. I'm your host, Che Guerrero, with
La co-host.
La co-host. How are you doing, La co-host?
I'm doing well. How are you?
It's fine. Like we don't know each other's lives.
It's fine. They don't know.
They don't know.
Right.
They don't know.
They don't.
What's the vital question on us? No, but it's man, it's been another week.
Mhm.
It's again, we always thought like this. It's just every week. It's just like, oh my gosh, another one. And
Mhm.
it's only what, like
We have to look this up. At
70
this
days
Right.
into Trump's presidency, 80.
Yeah. You sounded very definitive about that 70. Like you
I
had
mean,
been counting.
it was the 20th he went in.
Oh.
I still consider it MLK Day, not Inauguration Day.
Facts.
And then February 20th, we already passed March 20th at 60. So we're almost like 70.
That's fast math. Look at you.
I mean, I did graduate from high school.
Oh,
and I went to college for business associates. It was an associates.
All right, moving on.
Hey, I'm proud of my community college. You know what I mean? It should be
You
accessible.
You
It should be affordable.
proud.
Yeah, no, I'm very proud of
Yeah,
myself.
no, oh no, it wasn't that. It was just like we're gonna go down a rabbit hole in the way that we do. So I'm trying to, rein it back.
Hey, man.
So we're back
Oh, we're back
with another dumpster fire.
Another dumpster fire that was this week.
I mean, I guess, yeah, well, yeah, it's still another dumpster fire. I just feel like it's rude to say that when we're talking about freedom of speech issues that continue to happen and students continue to get basically kidnapped by ICE. And this is just kind of piggybacking off of our last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there's been more cases that are coming up where students that have been either, at protests, leading or attending or liking posts on social media in support of the Palestinian people only are getting their visas revoked and getting caught up with ICE and, basically kidnapped, abducted, whatever. Disappeared. Yeah, they're calling it disappeared. It's a new verb, disappeared.
These people are getting disappeared. And it's, I hate to be those, people's like, it's like 1984, George Orwell. But man, you read that book, and you actually put together what's happening now. And you're like, yo, there's parts in the book where they go, they specifically mention that people disappear, and all of a sudden you just see them at a coffee shop again, and they don't even know what happened to them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's what's terrifying. I mean, and again, we'll continue to bring this up because I do feel like the overarching unfortunate theme that I've seen with all this is kind of the lack of empathy that exists.
Yeah.
And primarily because, again, it's not at their door, as we say, right? So for as much as people may be like, oh, well, they're here on a visa, right? So whatever your oh, well, or buts or whatever your excuse for what's happening is, it's an excuse, right? Like, and you're just using it for whatever kind of ease of peace of mind that you may want to have. But it's not that, oh, this is them and this is versus my situation. No, like this is a domino effect.
Yeah. And, there is a new, I mean, it's not new, but, we've always had ways of othering people, but with othering people about papers, people really are like almost thinking that citizenship is a limited thing, like resources. So it's crazy how we have these layers of statuses and we deem who has right or not compared to statuses. Like these citizens believe if you're here on a student visa, you shouldn't be disrespecting my country. You should shut up, study, or get the hell out.
Right.
And these are individuals who are coming with their life experiences, especially people from this region who are on the receiving end constantly of these attacks from the West.
Right.
So you expect them just to shut. Again, it's the old thing that they told LeBron James, shut up and dribble.
Right.
They want all these students to shut up and dribble. Shut up and be my doctor.
Or my engineer.
Pharmacist.
Lawyer.
And don't have any opinion that does not align with U.S. imperialism. Thank you so much. Welcome to America. That's why I always say.
I really thought you were going to end that on a serious. I was like, look at you. I was about to be so proud. Like maintaining. Okay.
That's why this is one of my conspiracy theories, right? That the M400 is indoctrination. That, if you don't know, M400 is the last basically the last boss before you become a U.S. citizen.
Oh.
So you gotta like fill it out, and a lot of the questions is like, would you be loyal to America?
Oh,
would you pick
right.
up guns for
Oh,
America?
actually, yes, yeah.
Have you ever picked up guns against America? You're like, no, you know. So you have to like really, and then the test is a lot of questions like, who was the first president? George Washington. And it's not like for 100 points, how many slaves did he have? Like, you know, they don't ask you about.
Right.
So
course.
it's a very indoctrination kind of thing. And that's what they want you to be off the rip.
Yeah. As soon as you say, yes, yay, I'm a citizen.
Yeah.
That's your last step. That's so funny. Your final boss. That's
your
hilarious.
Final boss.
That's exactly what it is.
Oh my God. And 400 there, just like.
Oh my God. But I mean, no, just going back to like what you were saying about, you know, a lot of Americans saying, oh, well, these are my liberties. This is my country. Like, you know, you don't deserve this. It's just really ironic because these tend to be the same people that are also very proud of these liberties and like brag about it almost when they're out and about and constantly touts freedom of speech, right? Like I think we talked about this a couple of days ago, right? Where the Republican Party before the election results was, you know, talking about, oh yeah, the Democrats are going to limit freedom of speech. That's what they want to do. You're going to see it, blah, blah. Sure enough, look who's limiting freedom of speech. And to a degree that we haven't seen since the civil rights movement, at least on regular American soil to this degree. Like, I don't want to act like this kind of stuff doesn't happen sporadically, but to the extent that at least I'm personally seeing, I haven't seen it to this degree since probably the civil rights movement. And it's just like unreal. So I think I'll like segue into
and real quick, you know, on your freedom of speech, real quick, because we are going to jump into one of our news stories for this week. You know, they talk about freedom of speech and the violation of freedom of speech, but really, ultimately, it comes down to hate speech. They were just angry that Facebook at one time and Twitter was limiting this hate speech that was, you know, bringing in a lot of young people, you know, white supremacists, you know, and they were just more like, hey, we want to be able to be hateful online,
right?
And grow their fan base through their hate speech.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're actually limiting the truest free speech, which is, you know, talking to power about the way it's hurting me.
Right.
So it's just
part
always
of why
crazy.
America was created. Like,
I mean, for some people,
but
it's just always, I will never get over how much Republicans could just warp something like freedom of speech to make it this disgusting thing where it's hate speech and it's not even what you and I recognize anymore as freedom of speech.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that is the unfortunate segue to
another person who had their freedom of speech violated. What is the tough student? Is that who we're going to jump into? This is the tough student who was picked up by ICE on March 25th and was taken into custody and was told that they were police, but they weren't. They turned out to be, you know, immigration officials. And what's even worse, or we're still trying to figure out, which we think it was done, it seems like they violated a judge's order because they were told that she could not be transferred. There it is. Her name is, what is her name?
Rumeysa Ozturk.
Rumeysa Ozturk. She is a tough student on a visa. And we can see right here the images of her being taken by ICE.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to find the video.
No.
Because I do think it's impactful to see that video. That's why.
Okay. So here we go. We just got the video of them picking up the students. Sorry, what was her name again?
So her name is Rumeysa Ozturk.
Rumeysa Ozturk.
Yeah, and the source here is CBS News. So we went on YouTube. And let's
see some of these images. And for you, so those of you at home, you're going to listen to a little bit.
Yeah. So these are the ICE agents approaching her. Apparently, they only identified themselves as police, and didn't show badges until they had cuffs on her, as we saw right there. Right. So then after she has cuffs on her, no time for explanation, no time for anything. They just take her phone. We unfortunately obviously can't hear their conversation, but it's safe to assume that, you know, it wasn't following due process.
No. And also, you know, like we saw, they seem to have violated, like I was trying to say before, they seem to have violated a judge's order who said that she should not be moved outside of Massachusetts unless they have 48-hour notice.
Right.
And she was taken March 25th.
And today's
disappeared for 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, we can confirm, right? Because today is the 27th.
Yeah,
we're recording this, and as of today, there's already reports of her being in Louisiana. So clearly, it's basically been 48 hours.
Yeah,
or whatever. I can't do fast math,
yeah.
but
yeah.
So I mean, and just to take a step back, because I realize I also don't want to take for granted certain phrases that we use on our show. So for example, due process, right? I think a lot of people may think they know what that means, right? And it just sounds like, oh, you respect my rights.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what does that specifically mean?
Search that up. Come on, this is the thing. Like, if we're gonna talk about this word, I want to know what due process is. Now, as you know, with your history as an attorney, give us a breakdown quick of due process.
Yeah, I mean, so it and as we'll start to see, there's different. We're not going to go into a whole law school class.
Hey, listen, they might sit for this.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's why I'm going to leave this on in the background. This will be a mini. I'm not going to act like I'm a professor. You can see the background.
Professor, like co-host. Welcome to class. La Mudanza University. I don't know.
That's funny. That's a favorite Bad Bunny song. So yeah. But yeah, no, the idea of due process, just generally as a concept, is that we all have certain rights that are supposed to be respected, and it's irrespective of your status in this country, right? Like, it's not a stipulation. It's only citizens. It's only this, and anyone else, we don't care about your stat. Like, that's not written in there. So just to make that clear at the outset. So the idea being that if you are approached by law enforcement, for example, in the cases that we're seeing, that you'll have an explanation of to what's happening, right? Like, and if law enforcement approaches you, just says we're cops, and like starts restraining you right away, just saying you don't have a visa, no explanation, none of the BS that is BS of claiming that you're a quote unquote terrorist sympathizer or whatever. No, like, at bare minimum, even that, no, there is no explanation, right? Like, and you are supposed to have you're being kidnapped, like you're being abducted without that. Like that's what's happening here, right? And then to go through the immigration system with no explanation of your rights and no kind of clear guidance, and to be thrown into what we keep getting reports of, which is atrocities and these kinds of conditions, you have no rights. That's what's happening, right? So like, due process is ensuring that there's some kind of procedural mechanism that ensures that your rights are protected. We're not seeing that at all.
No.
Like, let's just be real. If that video that we just saw, that is not something that we would expect to see in a country like the USA.
And again, you going back to Ozturk, what she is sort of being accused of, and I hate to use that word because she committed no crime.
Correct.
It's
right, because to clarify, all she did was attend some protests, and then
not actively participating frequently,
right,
and wrote an op-ed in her school paper that was urging the school to divest its investment in Israeli companies. It is a tactic that we have seen used, like when South Africa, they were demanding for South Africa to, abolish apartheid. Putting economic pressure on a country to stop a genocide, an atrocity, and apartheid is, a
tried and true method.
A tried and true method of protest.
Yeah.
So this is what these students were doing. She wrote an op-ed about it, urging the school.
And to clarify, for people that get annoyed about, students acting, quote unquote, acting like they have the right to do this, the reason why they do have a right is because it's students' money that's being used, right? It's the price that they pay to go to college, the price for all these exorbitant fees that are coming about as part of attending their colleges, right? Like, that's what's being used to fund this.
Yeah.
So rightfully so, right? Like, imagine.
Yeah, right. Those schools aren't cheap.
Imagine if you were like, oh yeah, let me Sorry, that was distracting.
No, sorry. I got my pamphlets at home.
What's it called? Like, let someone tell me, oh yeah, I'm gonna take a part of your paycheck to fund like a puppy mill. Yo, right? Because you know how I feel about dogs.
Yes.
You imagine, and then I don't have the right to be like, no, you can't fund this puppy mill.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, that's how the U.S. works. Like we're all kind of funding puppy mills.
That's a big That's a way bigger episode. First of all, and to clarify, he's using puppy mills in his sense metaphorically. It's not just puppy mills. Right? Who knows?
This whole country could be run like Severance. There could be a whole goat mill where they just sacrifice goats in the name of cure.
No, that was really sad.
Severance season 2. It's okay.
It was really sad.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways, so I'm supposed to allow them to use my money for puppy milk? No. So like that's obviously an insensitive comparison, but like
right. But no, that's
actually to make it real simple.
You know what's funny? I did not think of that. I actually did not think of that at all.
Yeah.
That as a student, you are paying a school to go there. 100. I mean, this is Tufts. I don't know if you do a quick Google search. What's a 4-year degree at Tufts worth? Let's you know what? Let's do the math, as they say.
Let's math it.
Math it. Because go
ahead.
Because this thing isn't cheap. You're spending what, 150?
Oh, there you go.
67,840.
So that's
a year.
A semester.
A semester?
Yeah. Oh no, a year.
A year. Okay, yeah. 68,000. You do, 7, 14, 21,
and that's 28. Probably for undergrad also.
Oh yeah.
So who even knows? It's just
$280,000.
Yeah.
Of my money. Fast math. I'm all right. Just round up a lot. Don't be impressed by this. It's just, 7, 14, 21, 28. You know what I mean? Yeah. Fast math. So $280,000, you're looking at something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that money is going towards the decimation of your own people.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a say in how it's getting used?
Right.
Some of it?
Yeah, apparently not, because then you get called all this, like, you're getting kidnapped. Like, I just keep going back to that. It's wild, because I actually saw this video earlier today and assumed that it wasn't here, like an idiot, because at this point, that's never safe to assume anymore. And then started reading into it, and it's so heartbreaking. And again, for everyone that thinks this is limited, oh, well, it's students and they're here on a student visa. This is not being limited to students, right? Like, as we've seen, there's been, you have reported on your platforms about a bunch of different people, right? There's been all the students, but then there's also a French scientist, I believe.
Scientist who wasn't allowed in the country.
Some doctors,
rock bands, tattoo artists. And, look, we're going to jump into another. We're going to jump here from Ozturk to another story that you actually brought to my attention, that Palestinian people, Muslim, Arabs, man, it's not safe in this world. And look, I'm speaking with someone who the best friend in the world is Arab, and they tell me their experience on what it's like, just the hatred that comes towards the people around the world, the way the West is always scapegoating them,
right?
And these people there's just a lot of places that they are not safe to be in.
Yeah.
And going back, to all these protests of Palestinian people, you brought the story to my attention of I believe it was the director of the documentary.
Yeah. So I will share screen just to kind of, and I know that we sometimes want to cut out our search process, but I do think it's important, right? Because, for example, if you just saw something on a social media and you saw it said No Other Land, because that was the name of the documentary that this director or co-director we'll confirm but recently won an Oscar for. He was on national television on every American screen, and he and this person, as of recently, as we see what's hitting here, right, like we can call it kidnapped, right?
Yeah.
So just by the top stories that come out, he was detained, basically.
His name is
Hamdan Bilal.
Yeah, okay. And there are some videos of his release where he, I think he looks pretty roughed up. Let's read a little bit about what. Yeah, see, there's a video of him being released there.
Yeah.
Let's see a little bit of that. Okay, so here we go. We found a report from Al Jazeera about some of the background on the director and a little bit about his situation. Let's just listen to a little bit of it.
Hey, no! It may look like a scene from a Hollywood film, but this is life for people in the Massaferyata area in the occupied West Bank, with or without cameras.
Back to the car, back to the car.
Israeli settlers, some carrying weapons, stormed the village of Susia, attacking Palestinians and international activists. Struggles like this that happen nearly every day are the focus of the Oscar-winning movie No Other Land. Activist Hamdan Balal was part of the film's crew. Settlers assaulted him before he was arrested.
A group of settlers and soldiers chased Hamdan until his home. His family, his wife and children were inside the home. He closed the door and stayed outside to protect them from the attack.
Hamdan's wife describes moments of horror.
My children were hugging me. They were terrified. They were crying and shouting, "We don't want our father to die."
Like, this was
The film No Other Land.
This is horrible.
And he was in rough shape. We tried to pull the video footage, but interestingly enough, it's kind of hard to find now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we encourage obviously everyone to do their own research. That's what the show is about.
Yeah.
But I think it's very telling that as of a couple days ago, I don't even, everything's merging together at this point. But I, saw that video of him being released, and he was kind of like limping and definitely looked rough. And wasn't, it didn't seem like it was a great experience in there. And
no,
to put it lightly, it was a crap experience before he got arrested, and I'm sure it wasn't any better in there. So,
and this is the thing about the Palestinian people, whenever they try to speak up for themselves and try to even bring attention to what's happening and win an Oscar for it. And they're still treated like that.
And that's why I brought it up, right? Because before this, it was, and not that anyone is any more important than anyone else by any means, of course. But in terms of exposure and comparing the people that have been getting wrapped up in this, it's been quote unquote everyday citizens, right? Like, it hasn't been someone famous. And this person was on whoever was watching the Oscar knows who this person is, because he won an Oscar for his work. Ironically, the same crap that he just got wrapped up in.
Trying to bring peace between the two, and it just goes to show more why his work is so important.
Yeah, and it's just to show you that, like, we're in different times right now, unfortunately. But at the same time, it's not to deter people from speaking up, because I think that's why we're seeing this kind of backlash, right? I think, people are scared. And I think the other side is scared. And I think that's why they're kind of calling in all the troops, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
But where isn't a mess, and where was surprisingly calm.
Yeah, great segue into our next topic.
Was actually, we were recently in DC.
Yeah.
And it was, it was a very interesting trip. We were there with an organization who we very much respect and admire. And our first kind of expectation going into it was seeing how the country is functioning and everything that's happening, and seeing what we see in, everyday life. We expected to see something, right? It's DC. To the point where all my friends that knew that I was there kept asking, "Hey, how's it looking?" And I'm like, really normal.
It looked cool.
Really normal.
Looked beautiful with the cherry blossoms blooming. They're blooming. The blooming onion.
No, but actually they were really beautiful. As a side note, DC, you guys have beautiful.
Listen, we were there to fight, but I am.
We're not there to like physically fight.
We were there to fight for immigrants' rights
in peaceful protest.
And through organizing and stuff.
Correct.
But I did stop and smell the roses. Like, you have to take a moment to remember that
the cherry blossoms,
because you got to take a moment to remember, like, Jesus, it is like you're safe. You're right now, you're blessed. You're getting fresh air. Life is. It was so wild to be in DC and have that moment of you're fine, you're okay. You're out here working with organizations, you're trying to move the needle. It's, it's for scary as it is, it's a positive experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was weird how quiet it was. It did feel like being in the eye of a storm where everything's quiet.
Right.
In the eye of a hurricane, there is quiet.
Oh, espérate.
Espérate con mi Hamilton, there is quiet.
That wasn't encouragement.
Oh, pero espérate was like, please stop. Pero
Okay,
espérate.
no. Get this man. All right.
So yeah, so that's something that we actually wanted to like talk about with
Yeah.
our experience in DC with the organizations that we were working with. What's
Yeah.
what some of the stuff you felt down there?
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, like you said, surprisingly calm. Like I don't necessarily want to take the credit for making this observation, because I thought it was a very a very, like, I was gonna say a very observed observation. No, a well observed observation. Like
Poignant?
it was dope. That's what I wanted to say.
Yo, it was a dope
It was a
observation.
dope observation.
Yo,
That's what
I was around, I was like, yo, I got this.
I'm a little tired. That's what it is.
No, darling, we're all tired. No, but you're not. I know you're tired.
What's it called? But no, but I just didn't realize what you were saying, right? That you said that it makes total sense that it's calm in DC. Because of course, why would the powers that be want to disrupt their everyday?
Their lives.
Right. So like when you look into it, and again, we encourage everyone to look into it, and feel free to leave in the comments if you find otherwise. Let us know if you find that there have been ICE raids in Washington, D.C. Let us know if you've heard of any real disruption in Washington, D.C. Recognize that in the same way that they're going after people in all major cities and all major, D.C. is it's major. So like, why is nothing happening there? Right? How is everything peachy, yet every other major city probably has some kind of disruption, right? Like I don't want to.
Yeah,
I'm very specific on my words, but I'm just like,
saying.
I don't know if it's all the cities, but yeah, no, like, and I just thought that was a really poignant observation.
Dope, yeah.
No,
and that's something. Yeah, that's something that we were, we were noticing was like, why would they disrupt their own lives? I've marched through, I think it's Palm Springs in Florida, where like Mar-a-Lago is. And I walked through very rich neighborhoods, and we were making so much noise that the staff from the restaurant were coming out, and they were all like Honduran, Nicaraguan, Venezuelan, and they were like, "Si se puede," they were like chanting for us. And I realized, ICE raids could actually be done in rich places like that, because all those people actually do have a lot of Latinos working constantly around them, with or without papers, and they're not going to do ICE raids in any neighborhood that would disrupt their life.
Correct.
That's why they're doing it in Chicago and Aurora and stuff. All these places that are, where we live, where we are. That's why they're scaring us into not going into our own community's businesses.
Well, right. And actually, now that I think about it, in terms of ICE raids, even in major cities like New York, like those raids were happening in different parts of Queens, different parts of Brooklyn. They weren't happening in the Upper East Side, Upper West Side, like but sure enough, if you look at the kitchens, if you look at the staff in certain spaces, you'd find a good amount of undocumented people. If you actually,
I'm not saying that's the only jobs we could do.
Correct.
Again, disclaimer, big disclaimer.
As a side note, which we will get into, because
we'll get into that. we go get into that.
All right, hold on.
Okay.
But that is one of our vital questions today to ask. Hey, Washington D.C., why is nothing being disrupted on your end?
Because they love the luxury. Like I said, Trump loves hiring undocumented people and H-1B visas people to not pay them.
Right. And again, if you think otherwise, or if you see some other reason as to why this may be happening, encourage you to leave some comments and ask your own questions. And again, start the conversation with, each other. You
know what's so wild? They say that we bring quote unquote crime into their neighborhood. Hey, man, they're the one bringing crime and shit into our neighborhoods. Do you know what I mean? They're the ones bringing in this breaking the law against freedom of speech, or, breaking the Fourth Amendment right to search and seizure.
You're saying that they're making up the crimes and bringing it into our neighborhood.
Yeah, they're the ones bringing crimes into our neighborhood, 100%. Breaking the constitutions in our neighborhood, coming over to my neighborhood and arresting me without letting me have my Miranda rights. You come in here making crime in my neighborhood.
Tell them.
You know what I mean? But they're allowed to make all the crimes they want in our neighborhood.
Yeah, that's wild. I actually haven't thought about that. That's so interesting.
Well, I'm a very smart person.
Listen, I don't doubt it.
I don't doubt it. You're still waiting to see it.
But no, just going off of that, because I don't want to let the idea that we can only be in the service industry live for too much longer. Obviously, that's not true.
No.
Obviously, that's very much a stereotype. The only thing it's not that the only thing we bring is our hardworking skills and the way that we're brought up and to value hard work. And yes, we are hard workers. We're also intelligent. We're also
it's funny you fumbled on intelligent. We're intelligent.
We are intelligent. Great. We're gonna cut this out.
No.
Oh no.
No. And
I promise I am. I'm just tired.
No. I by the way, we are a lot more, but with a big asterisk on it. Like, I do want to talk about our economic force, because while being in DC, I came to realize something that I didn't realize before. Republicans, especially Republican business owners, are scared. They feel like they shot themselves in the foot when it comes to immigration and aligning themselves with Trump. And now they're trying to do everything possible to fix it in a way that would help them still be able to discriminate and kick immigrants out, but keep the ones that are beneficial to them.
Right. And it was just, kind of gross conversation that we were overhearing, and were surprisingly, what'd you call it, infiltrated? We didn't.
We
didn't intentionally infiltrate. We just didn't know what we were getting ourselves into for some of this.
We went and something that I would never have done, that I never could have had the opportunity to do, was go into spaces where Republican businessmen are pushing for their vision of the world. And I got to be a fly on the wall to this, and seeing how much these Republicans are afraid of losing their undocumented workers.
Yep.
They straight up said themselves into microphones in the dairy farm industry, something like, this is, by the way, this is just some paraphrasing, like something like 35 to 40% of their workers, no, probably even higher than that.
I thought you said like 50.
I thought you said 50 or 60% of their workers are immigrants, and 50% of those people are undocumented.
Yeah.
So now they're afraid by supporting Trump, they're going to lose their undocumented immigrants.
Correct.
They're afraid they're going to lose their indentured servants, which is why they're trying to push legislation that allows them to keep the people they're exploiting, that they've been exploiting for 20, 30 years.
Right. And the unfortunate part is that they're doing it under the guise of, oh, this is bipartisan, this is a joint-led effort, this is all this stuff. And yes, there are some Democrats that are involved in the initiative, but it's, and they're probably problematic in their own right. I haven't looked into the specific Democrats
or the centrists.
Yeah.
Trying to appease Republicans.
Because while I hear the idea of like, let's help however we can, like it's not let's help however we can if it continues the problematic rhetoric that all we're good for is labor.
Yeah.
That all we're good for is to get on our hands and knees and do the jobs that, quote, Americans don't want to do, end quotes. And that is a verbatim quote from what we overheard.
Yeah. Yes.
In Washington.
Yeah.
That, like, this guy just confirmed Americans don't want to do this, but these people will do it.
Republican business leader, again, I go back to them, are in a very tough position. And by the way, I'm in, it's that German word when you're enjoying their pain. Because my community.
Damn, Trevor Noah said it. The Schurkenfranker.
Look it up. We'll figure it out. Yeah, that German word. Because my community has been hurting so much, and I've seen them hurt every day, that you think that, these people are just living at home, not being hurt by it all. Of course, they're not being hurt the way we are. It's never the same, because they only care about their money.
Right.
So at the end of the day, their racism, as always, racism hurts your bottom dollar. They just don't see it until it's too late. And right now, that's why I am sort of laughing at their trying to get some kind of immigration pass, because they want to keep the people that keeps them wealthy, by any means necessary. Which is where, even though I don't want to equate immigrants, undocumented people, just workers like these on farms, things like that, but we cannot take away the reality that we are in those spaces and they need us so badly that now they're scrambling.
Yeah. And statistically, that's just accurate, right? Yeah. Like, but just because our numbers are high in those spaces does not mean that that's all we're good for, in the way that people like to talk about Latinos. And that's also the other unfortunate part, because we had a conversation with some people in Congress as well, in talking about how the media portrays us, right, in our demographic. And it usually is that, right? It's usually as the help in some kind of way, or a criminal in some kind of way. And that's about it. And we talked about this, right? Like, if you if you live in some small town in the middle of Kansas somewhere and you aren't exposed to any other type of Latino, other than what you see in the media and maybe your local restaurant, then you probably do think that's what
true.
we're good for, quote unquote. So then when you have people that are supposed to be representing different areas of our country repeating that same rhetoric, like we've seen politicians do, like we saw business leaders do, that like this is the problem.
Yeah.
Right. So we also got into interesting conversations about that, right? Where there was the conversation of, well, we are, hardworking, and we are.
Yeah.
But that's not all we are.
That's not all we are.
Yeah.
And it's also, a lot of these, I go back to these business leaders, they're trying now to get involved in passing an immigration bill. But what if you really cared about these people? Because they're like, we care about employees. They've been with us for like 15 years. Okay, well, where were you 15 years ago in the fight? Where were you 20 years ago in the fight? Where were you 30 years ago in the fight?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You're okay now getting into this fight in a very twisted way. Don't get me wrong. These aren't some progressives here that I'm talking about, but at least in some way asking for some immigration reform for their employees because it is going to hurt them. And let's get this straight. We ain't going to let the cat out of the bag too much. But these deals that they're bringing up, it ain't lovely.
Yeah, I would caution people whenever they hear of any kind of legislation that is supposedly being proposed as bipartisan under this administration.
To read the fine print on everything on these bills.
Right. So what that means is that, in case you haven't noticed, with this administration, and candidly, other administrations have done too, but this administration in particular is notorious for it doing regularly, is building in other problematic crap, insert adjective here, type of legislation that they don't want the general public to focus on. And they kind of like Trojan horse it into something else.
That's always like what the thing is with Congress and government, but this is especially insidious in a
correct. Yeah. So it's we know that there's stuff in the works. From what we gathered, that may or may not be helpful in some kind of way, but just because it might seem like it's helpful initially, it is worth kind of taking a closer look.
Yeah.
And we just, again, encourage everyone to always do their due diligence, to always review things, to read things when they hear about it, and not just go off of hearsay or just gossip or whatever Joe Schmo told you from down the street. Actually look it up yourself before you repeat it.
Yeah.
You have to ask these vital questions.
Yeah. And and like we saw down in DC with all these people, one of the things that we pointed out in DC is that it is such a facade. It's a lot of people. By the way, we worked with a lot of great people, so this isn't like people that we work with, and this isn't something like,
and the people that we like met with personally.
Yeah, we met with Congressman Castro.
Yeah,
we met
Joaquin Castro.
Castro was great. Joaquin Castro was very kind. He was the one that brought up how our representation in the media is terrible.
Yeah.
I think I have to sneeze. No, it went away. Okay. Yeah. So Castro. And we also got to meet with Alvaro Bedoya, an amazing individual. If you guys don't know his story, you need to.
Yeah, he's
Can you pull up a picture of him real quick? See if we can
get
an image of him right there. This guy, he really impressed the heck out of me.
Yeah. So he is the FTC commissioner who, as of a couple of days ago, was still had a job. And as we see here, he was fired by Trump, or Trump tried to fire him. We're gonna see how this plays out.
Trump fired him. Actually, you have an image of him real quick, so we can kind of just let the picture know, people know. Yeah, there he is. That's the gentleman. Yeah. So we actually had the opportunity to meet with him, and hopefully down the road we can speak to him a little more.
Yeah.
But Bedoya here, he was going after the billionaires. As the commissioner of the FTC, his job was to go after billionaires, and well,
not just that, but yes.
well, yes, a lot of things, but like he did mention, and like he said, a lot of the pressure started to come after he started to go after billionaires who were standing behind Trump during the inauguration. The same people that Bedoya was going after, sort of, and what we're just saying here, these are the same people who's going after, and
just ironically had cases going with the FTC.
Yeah, and standing right behind Trump.
Yeah,
and he gets a letter saying that he's been terminated.
Yeah, and just to clarify and taking a step back, so FTC stands for Federal Trade Commission.
Yes.
And that is the government's regulatory body that oversees companies, corporations in their activities. One of their primary purposes is to protect consumers.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, they're here to protect us, right, as individuals, and they're here to make sure that companies aren't, deceiving consumers or doing any kind of practice that would cause harm to consumers. So technically, the FTC is a good thing. Corporations and companies sometimes aren't fans because it is more hoops and things to kind of jump through. But again, ultimately, most good corporate partners tend to understand why, right? Tend to get the purpose of the FTC, and it's just something you got to do as a corporation. But as we've seen and as we heard, there are a couple of corporations that ironically had open cases with the Federal Trade Commission under Alvaro, and ironically, also those same people tend to be buddies with our president right now.
Yeah.
So again, it's an assumption, right? We're assuming this. To clarify. There is no slander, libel, nothing happening because this is very clearly an opinion and an educated guess. But if one had to guess, if someone is messing with your friends and you had the power to do something to that someone without any repercussions, as we've seen, what are the odds that a person would do something?
Yeah.
And again, speculation, it's all,
But what's great about Alvaro is that he is not just sitting back and letting this happen. He is suing the Trump administration.
Correct.
He's suing. You know what's crazy that I didn't realize? He's suing to get his job back.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I'm sorry. I wouldn't. Maybe I'm a different person, but I don't think I'll ever sue anybody to get my job back.
Right.
I will sue if it's wrongful termination to get paid. I'll be real with you. But to get the job back, that man, and we spoke to him, and that's why I respect him.
And that's how you know he's good at his job.
He loved his job.
He actually cares.
He liked protecting consumers.
Yeah.
And work.
First of all, fix your face.
No,
that's a good thing.
No, it's a great thing.
Right, but why is your face like that?
Sorry, it's just I've never met somebody who's was so genuine about the fact that he likes helping consumers. In look, it's kind of cheesy to say like this because politics is so much about my side, kind of thing. So I'm used to politics in that sense. But he was like, no, I was in a part of government that was like, hey, I'm out here. Listen, y'all have your debates out there, and that's important. And let's talk about all the issues. But my job is to make sure y'all money's good. You know what I mean?
Right. Talking to consumers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And making sure that billionaires are not abusing its workers.
Right. And again, ask yourself the vital question. The person who is in charge of regulating and putting all the process in place for all these companies and corporations to have to follow and making their lives quote unquote difficult, and he gets fired for no reason. That you can look it up yourself. There was no valid reason. He was just fired.
So now he's in a legal battle trying to get his job back. And the dude is he was just out recently with AOC and Bernie Sanders in the oligarchy tour.
Correct.
Which is
Stop the oligarchy tour.
The oligarchy.
Not the that sounds like
it was Stop the Oligarchy tour. You're right. The oligarchy tour. It sounds like they're part of it. Like we
exactly. I'm
sorry,
like,
it was Stop the Oligarchy
Jesus
tour.
But we're never gonna have AOC on now.
We're gonna have her on.
AOC, I need you to listen, girl.
I don't know what Bernie Sanders on after what I said.
Girl, New Yorker to New Yorker. All right, I'll stop. But yeah, but agreed. Alvaro was absolutely wonderful. Very genuine. He is Peruvian and comes from humble beginnings. And very much the American dream story. Yeah. Right. Very much use his intellect to help the general population.
A kid from Peru.
Right, this kid from Peru,
naturalized citizen. He tells a beautiful story about how his mother really inspired him and gave him the confidence to go out there and know that he was he was not different, you know, but he was something special.
No, he was special.
He
Yeah,
was
exactly.
special. That's different.
It
you know,
wasn't, like that. And she knew when he was in the States that he would come across, you know, unfortunate bias, probably racism, and all the different things that you want to protect your kid from. But she knew that she couldn't, right? So she just ensured that he knew that he came from a beautiful culture that has a long history, that is the foundation of a lot of different things that the Western world uses.
Yeah.
And it was just, you know, it was just really great to connect with someone of that caliber and see them be so genuine and honest.
Yeah.
So that was definitely one of the highlights of our trip. And
it really was.
Same with Representative Castro.
Castro, yeah.
He was absolutely wonderful too, and was really gracious with his time as well. And you know, DC was interesting. Because we were fortunate to have those one-on-one experiences with them. And we were, you know, going around with a great group of people as well, who were really fun.
Yeah. We got to, you know, we got to hang out with influencers, you know, Brendan, Carlos Espina, Nessa, and Chris Cabeza, and myself. We were, they wound up calling us the Immigrant TikTok Avengers was one of the nicknames that we got. And we also got, people go Mexican Avengers.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm an honorary Mexican Avenger because I'm Dominican, but my stepdad's Mexican. One of my best friends in the world growing up was Mexican. You know, my niece and nephews half Mexican.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to like claim the culture like, oh, I got brown friends kind of thing. I have black friends. But even you pointed out like, yeah, I don't know how much, I didn't know you like so much cumbia.
Which like
but just that love was like very like internal, like
no, to clarify, no hate on cumbia, because cumbia dope, but it was just a surprising genre that I wasn't expecting, given, you know.
I always say growing up, like, you know, with Mexican and Dominican culture, that my ketchup is in the fridge and my eggs are in the pantry, so it's really confusing when I'm looking for stuff.
They put eggs in the pantry?
Yeah. A lot of the eggs are like out.
You know what though? When you're in the supermarket, they're not like in the cold.
No.
Right? But they are in those little like cold, semi-cold sections.
I don't know if you've gone to like a supermarket in Mexico, but I've seen videos of like crates.
Oh yeah, they're just out.
They're just out. Yeah.
But you know what?
It's a way to process differently.
Well, I was about to say those are fresh eggs.
Yeah.
They just got them. Like they put them in the cart. Like listen, everything is fresh in our country. But
going back real quick, so we did get to meet with great people, and kind of taking 2 steps back, and I apologize if I didn't get to this before, but seeing all these Republican business leaders really makes me realize, seeing all these Republican business leaders, you know, like freaking out about losing their immigration labor, documented, undocumented, really puts into perspective how much immigrants right now do hold a lot of power.
Right.
And we really need to figure out how to get this moment of desperation on the side of Republican business leaders, and kind of like, hey, for once in our lives, you know, twist the screw a little bit here and say, you know, hey, you know, I'm not telling you full out, like, I know it's hard for people to take a day off work. I know it's hard to march. I understand it takes a lot of resources to be able to do something like that.
Well, and not only that, it's also scary.
It's also scary right now. But you know what? A lot of your bosses, you know, if you know, gosh, send this to a person, you know, that might need to hear this. But, you know, if you're working for somebody on a farm or anything like that, go talk to your boss and tell them to talk to there's ranchers organizations, there's milkers organizations, there's cheese organizations. They will talk to people who will go lobby for them,
right?
And let them know, hey, listen, I know how vital I am for you,
right?
And even though they might not be, here's the thing, they won't tell you that they're afraid. They won't tell you how much you need, but I saw the fear in their eyes, and I'm bringing you the word, letting you know they're afraid of losing you, and you have a lot of power,
right?
As an immigrant worker,
right?
Documented or undocumented, and don't let them make you think otherwise.
Right, exactly. And figure out a way to do it safely.
Yeah,
because it's so funny. Like we're on interesting ends of the spectrum. It's the same spectrum, but it's just more like you are going guns blazing all the time. I'm more like, think about it, but let's figure out a plan.
You know what? You're absolutely right, because if you go in that, you know, guns are blazing, these people are also a-holes who will call ICE on you, or have
you never know,
take away your H-1B visa, or just kick you off the farm.
Yeah.
So God, they hold so much power.
Unfortunately. But it's as a lawyer, I'm always, you know, I'm always thinking of all case scenarios, right? That's my job, and that's how I'm trained to think. And definitely look into your particular situation, right? Like if you're a worker or an employee somewhere and you feel like your boss would be receptive to that, you know, and wouldn't be a jerk, and, you know, be conscious of what your situation is, right? Like
Yeah, that's very true.
Right. So, and also there's power in numbers, right? So
Yeah.
like if you know that your boss has several different employees that are undocumented or have mixed status or have something going on, and you know that you guys are at risk, like, hey, this is lose-lose at this point, right? Like
and you know, you're right, because I'm the fool that think you could just go up and talk to them. No, that's why we have to march. That's why we have to galvanize.
Well,
right,
but this is also
put pressure on them.
And it's fair to say though that maybe someone hasn't thought about this, right? So that's why we wanted to include it, and also for me, it also comes with a little disclaimer that it is case specific, and in the phrase that all lawyers love to say, it depends, right? It depends on your particular situation. But regardless, though, it's just an important thing for the community to know that these are the conversations that are happening. That you know, undocumented and migrants and the population are part of the regular conversation now for these business leaders. And to your point, they're scared. So it's in everyone's best interest for some kind of real resolution to come about all of this. But to clarify, that resolution shouldn't come with certain stipulations. Right? It should be, if you haven't actually committed a crime, right? Like, and you actually haven't done anything against society, because I also realistically, I get that. Yes, if you were here and you murdered someone, like, that's probably not great. I kind of agree. You probably
I'll give you murder,
right? And like rape, and, you know, like some like major shit.
There's major shit, of course,
right?
Of
the
course,
things
we
that
don't want that kind of
but it's the things that they're claiming everyone is doing, which is BS. And that was the other problematic rhetoric we heard over the past couple of days, that they were claiming that Trump fixed the border and he fixed the problem, and now let's come to that is problematic, y'all. And I really hope some of these people listen to this and know that we're talking about them. Because when you're saying all this crap about like, oh yeah, we have to seal the border, we have to secure the border, and now Trump has secured the border, so great, now let's move on to the next. First of all, the border numbers weren't like, they were decreasing.
They were
over
already
the last
decreasing.
couple. They were already decreasing. There was no crazy issue there. The whole Tren de Aragua thing, that is unsubstantiated at this point. Yes, are some members here? They've confirmed that some members.
There are more white supremacist groups than are Tren de Aragua.
Correct, and they're not running rampant in the streets. You know what is running rampant right now? Fear, because of the BS that's going around.
And just by the way, like, I know we're talking about, like, you know, immigration and pathways, and I just always hate when they bring up, like, but, you know, we don't want criminals here. I don't want criminals here, but I always hate that, like, we stop with immigration and criminals. Like, you know, the issues that happen with humans, regardless of their status, is societal issues. You know what I mean? Femicide, or, you know, the lack of resources for people, or, you know, mental health. There's like a lot of issues that lead people to do things, and that's where, you know, when somebody commits a crime, I'm not dismissing it or whatever.
Totally.
I try to look at the person sort of being like, okay, with mental health issues, how did they grow up? You know, what are society? So I know I'm looking at it way too much, like excusing, and that's what I'm trying to say. But it's just, you know, just to not look beyond the person and what they're going through. It's just, for me, something that's like, damn, like, you know, immigration is that's it. End of the day, that's
it. Funny enough, if our criminal justice system worked the way it's supposed to, and worked equitably, and y'all please look up what equitably means, just because everyone keeps using DEI and doesn't know what the hell. Anyways, and actually worked how it's supposed to work, those kind of factors would be taken into account, right? Like, did they have like any kind of temporary mental states that caused them to act this way, that would mitigate the situation, like, technically our system, and on the books, there are things that can be improved. But even if at bare minimum it worked how it's supposed to work on the books, to some extent, like, that would all be taken into account. But the unfortunate part is you're 100% right. And actually, no, you're thinking about this the right way, because that's actually the caveat that a lawyer would give, right? But the caveat would be, but there's so many circumstances that come into play. And if you just look at it in a vacuum of like, oh, well, if you were convicted of a crime, well, we all know, first of all, the amount of surveillance that exists on Black and brown bodies. We all know the corrupt law enforcement system that we have in certain spaces, right? Like, we all know that there are all these systemic issues that exist, and those are very real, and they definitely also affect the undocumented community.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and it's also, as somebody, I didn't grow up during the dictatorship in the Dominican Republic, but there was, when I was a kid, a sense of censorship, and there is some in countries, in our country, but there is a lot of censorship in countries around the world, and people come here to kind of feel like there's a little respite from that, and it is just so suffocating to feel like, okay, like somebody I think of as like Mahmoud, you know what I mean? Khalil, he was born in a refugee camp in Syria because he had to escape, his family had to escape Palestine, and I believe that's his story. Please, but and then he's here, he's a student, he's got his green card, and he's trying to stand up for his own people here. So in Israel, he couldn't stand up for the Palestinian people because definitely couldn't do that there. And now he comes here and he can't stand up for the Palestinian people. It's like, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And sorry, you said in Israel, you mean in Palestine? He wasn't able to.
Excuse me.
Yeah, because to clarify, that is Palestine.
Yes, Palestine against the Israeli people. That's what I meant to say. Yeah. Thank you so much for correcting that. Thank you so much. Yes.
But yeah, that's what's heartbreaking, right? Like it's all centered around human rights. Like this has been so polarizing. Oh my God, I didn't even tell you when we were there in DC. Someone that we were with was speaking with a third person, right? And this lady came up and was like, "Oh, what is this all about?" And then and like this older white lady was like, "What is this all about?" And then she's like, "Oh, like we're talking about the impact of Latinos and stuff like that, and the importance of immigration and all that." And then she was like, "Oh, this has to do with immigration? No, that's too much for me. That's too much. It's all that is too much." And she just like waved her hand kind of flippantly and walked away. And to clarify, flippantly doesn't mean that she flipped us the bird. Like,
no, I know what you mean. She did that weak little it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and kind of walked away. And I was like, first of all, ew. Like, what's wrong with you? Jesus Christ. But it was just an interesting little moment that happened that I forgot to tell you about. And it was just, I feel like kind of how a lot of the population is, unfortunately, when it comes to the subject.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of heartbreaking.
It's funny. Actually, I was in a situation once where I was reading a book, and it was like this white lady that was like, kind of, it was a time before really like, Trump was kind of starting to come up or whatever, so you're trying to like read people, and I was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, right? And this white lady, she just came up because I had her face down, and she goes, "Oh, what book is this?" And she picked it up and just saw Malcolm X, and she went, "No," and just slammed it back down. And I was like, I've never seen such a visceral reaction from someone seeing a civil rights activist. Like,
well, that told you everything you needed to know.
Yeah, so that's the same thing with this lady. This is like, immigration? No.
Yeah, that was basically the response.
Yeah. And it's amazing that they could do that.
Yeah.
It's just so amazing.
Yeah. It's that must be nice to have that level of privilege.
Yeah. Yeah. The only way I would react to that, I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And then somebody's like, "Yacht club." And I'm like, "No, that's me."
Oh, actually, that's fair. If someone was like golf, and I'm like,
"No."
Actually, my response would be ill. That's what
golf. Ill. But yeah, man, that's the week in review here.
Yeah.
We started off with it's just
more students being rounded up and more, and now going on to public figures.
Yeah, and it's telling you, the Palestinian people, marginalized people, are just constantly being under attack. We've seen it from here to, we see it in Israel, we see it in Palestine by the the Israeli people, and now it's just, God, the powers that be, man. It's just, and again, it was just being in DC and seeing these people's lives just not be disrupted. That's why I'm saying, like, the powers that be, like the people in Israel, ICE agents, the government, like, just being so comfortable when the rest of us are really just hurting so much. Yeah. And they're the ones who are leading this rhetoric.
Right. Yeah. And it was very hard to be in some of those spaces the past couple of days and not be able to voice our opinions. Because we're a mixed company, as they say, i.e. Republicans.
Trust me, I still spoke. I still spoke a little bit, a little louder. I had a few side eyes from Republicans.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, but it's and you know, I don't know anybody who says like, oh, we should work with the other side, we should work with the other side. It is not
This
possible.
side,
It's not
this
possible.
side isn't workable.
It's
like
not
that's the
workable.
problem. They're
it's not workable.
That's not the things that they're proposing, the things that they're asking for, especially on the immigration front, essentially dehumanize people. People are being seen as workers, and that's it. Like, you want to talk about severance? They're not even envisioning a severance kind of situation.
Yeah.
They're not even. If severance would be too nice. You get snacks.
Any all the time. No, but I'm saying like any all the time.
Any
they
all
have
the
no
time.
Audis. They
but
have no
no,
Audis.
but their innies don't have a great setup. It's not like snacks. They don't got snacks.
They don't got snacks.
First of all, I keep harping on snacks so that like, I really
have
had snacks in different certain employment space. Whatever, it's fine. But they don't have snacks.
No.
They don't have like cushy seats and stuff. They don't have
No. Yeah, you're right.
So they're not talk about. It's not even severance. It's significantly worse than severance.
Wow.
So, but yeah. So
I remember, this is all coming down from the powers that be. These people think they're comfortable in their ivory towers, and it also failed for them, and that's why they're scrambling.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good place. And remember, rich Republicans are afraid of losing their money. So there's some hope. They are afraid. They are afraid of losing something.
Oh, do we want to do a quick plug for anyone that is in Florida? Special general elections are
quick plug.
April 1st. So you can check out our
latest post.
Yeah, our latest post
on Instagram.
Che Guerrero ENG. And yeah, so just check out it will give you a rundown summary on the candidates. It's the 1st and 6th congressional district in Florida. That has special elections, and even if you're not in Florida, please share the information with your friends. And if you are thinking, hey, there's no shot in hell that we have to potentially get some Democrats elected, you may want to Google search these upcoming elections and check out the headlines, because it looks like some people on the red side are a little afraid.
Republicans are scared,
and
because even if they don't fully, even if they win, Trump won that by 30 points,
right?
And there is that number is actually closing. Right. So there's still trouble in the horizon for them.
Yeah. So please look into it. Please share with everyone that you know, because you never know who might be based in Florida or who may have connections or family there. And again, if we don't try, we'll never know. Like,
we'll never know.
Crazier things like happen. Crazier things have happened, like a reality star being our president. So let's make sure we make moves.
You know, the weekend host of Fox and Friends texting out state secrets to a journalist accidentally.
Oh my God.
Crazy things have happened.
All right, we could go on. We're not going to go down the list.
We're not going to go down that list.
Of the crazy thing.
But remember to follow us on all our socials.
Follow, like, subscribe, share.
All that at Che Guerrero ENG across all platforms, and Che Guerrero ESP for Espanol. We'll be coming out more more stuff like that in Spanish.
Latino content.
Thank you so much. Keep up the fight. Keep asking those vital questions. Anything before I go to co-host?
Vital questions.
Vital questions. Keep asking them. Adios.
Thanks.